If we're to believe GB News and The Telegraph, we're to expect that the political landscape of the UK is shifting beneath our feet. For the first time, Reform UK, led by the ever-divisive Nigel Farage, has topped a national opinion poll, outpacing both Labour and the Conservatives as Farage swans around in Washington, D.C., not quite getting in on the inauguration event itself. This remarkable development follows the sentencing of Axel Rudakabana, whose heinous crimes have cast a long shadow over the government's handling of terror-related cases. And Rudakabana's sentencing to the minimum of 52 years for the murder of 3 girls, 10 attempted murders, the possession of ricin and Al-Qaeda literature has ignited a political firestorm, and Farage's insinuation of a government cover-up targeting Labour, and Sir Keir Starmer specifically, has resonated with an electorate already disillusioned with the establishment. Starmer defended his decision to withhold details of Rudakabana's terror links to avoid prejudicing the trial, but for many, his explanation rings hollow. The latest Find Out Now poll places Reform at 26%, ahead of the Conservatives at 23% and Labour trailing at 22%. This marks a seismic moment in British politics, a rejection of traditional parties and their perceived inability to address the public's fears, from crime to migration. I don't think it's right. I think this is stoking up a sort of emotional response to a narrative which is controlled very much by the negatives. Because Reform UK have nothing actually to offer except for criticism. And Farage has wasted no time in capitalising on the momentum. His claim that Reform is headed for government, "I'm not shallow," underscores his audacity, while his refusal to entertain a pact with the Conservatives signals an unwavering confidence in his own party's trajectory. Reform's rhetoric, simple, populist, emotive, has struck a chord particularly with voters who feel left behind by Labour's economic policies and the Conservatives' perceived drift from their core principles. Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, faces mounting pressure to respond decisively. But, decision for Kemi Badenoch. It's taken her long enough to actually manage to stand in front of the dispatch box and deliver something considered acceptable. Nothing impressive, but almost acceptable. Last Wednesday, almost acceptable. With her party's support dwindling, and why we're surprised about that, calls for a pact with Reform are growing louder, her desperation almost palpable. Lord Frost has publicly urged cooperation, warning against a fractured right that could hand Labour another term. Yet Badenoch's hesitance to make specific pledges has left her vulnerable as Reform continues to siphon off disaffected Tory voters. Labour, meanwhile, is enduring a torrid 6 months in office and achieving nothing. Economic backlash, sleaze scandals, high-profile criticisms that have eroded public trust and wouldn't have been seen in any normal party until the 3rd or the 4th year of existence. The party's messaging focused on undoing 14 years of Tory chaos. Yeah, with 6 months of Labour chaos, is struggling to counter the narrative of failure perpetuated by Farage and Badenoch alike. The political implications of Reform's rise, therefore, are profound. Whether it happens or not, the fragmentation of the right. Without unity, the right will split its vote, allowing Labour to maintain power even with diminished public support. But it may also usher in the opposition of a run by the Lib Dems. That would be a success of sorts. The projections suggest a hung parliament, with Labour taking 179 seats, Reform 170, and the Conservatives 165. In your dreams, a Reform-Tory coalition, a concept dismissed by Zia Yusuf, may become a necessity. Both major parties will need to reassess their platforms. Labour must address policy concerns on crime and security, while the Conservatives must articulate a clearer vision to counter Reform's populism. But basing all this on one poll? No, it's not going to happen. Certainly not with the first-past-the-post system. Reform's rise is emblematic of a deeper malaise in British politics. The electorate the electorate's trust in traditional parties is eroding, replaced by a yearning for decisive action on issues like migration, crime, economic reform, anything except for getting on with the job. The job is to govern us on a day-to-day basis. Labour isn't doing it, the Conservatives aren't promising anything, and Reform are carping from the sidelines. But who is actually doing something positive? Nobody. Nobody. This vacuum will be filled with noise, and Reform is leading that noise. Reform's simplistic solutions will struggle under the scrutiny of real government, should Farage's dreams of power become a reality. Oh, I'm not shallow. Well, no, but you're going to drown in this water. As the nation looks to county council elections in May, the stakes really are very high. They couldn't be higher. The question is not just who will govern, but whether British politics can adapt to the demands of an electorate that's increasingly impatient, disillusioned, yearning for change. He thought that Labour was bringing change. No! No! Labour doesn't know what it's doing. Do you think the Reformist knows what it's doing? No! No. We need to get rid of the first-past-the-post system, not to replace the present Labour government with reform, but to provide an opportunity for real MPs with real convictions to be elected on their own merits to Parliament, and then after that form their alliances. It may take a while to work out what government we will actually have, but at least we will have something honest, rather than a lot of people united under some sort of banner that they don't believe in, that nobody really salutes. And we have no idea what anybody is going to say, what anybody is going to do, because this desperate desire to cling to power at all costs. No, we should start with truth. And as the nation looks at the county council elections, maybe that's the place to start thinking about truth. Farage may claim it's just the beginning, but where the Reform surge represents a genuine political shift, which I think is very unlikely, or a fleeting moment in the history of polling, which I think is highly likely, that remains to be seen. This is a blip. This is a barrage balloon, not even not even a Zeppelin. It's a nothing. It's a party popper.